Here.
Okay, perfect timing. That's Carol. Are we rolling?
7 o'clock.
You have about 4 more seconds left.
Okay,
All right, there you go. You're all set.
excellent. So I'd like to call the meeting, the February meeting of the Compton Agricultural Conservancy Trust to order. Members present are Bill Richmond, Rusty Cabot, Mike Steers, Ed Mayato, and David Wexler. We have a guest of Carol Trocchi. Cheryl Cady is here, as is Carol Wardell. The first order of business is to approve the minutes of the public and executive sessions from the January 2021 meeting.
The motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously approved. Thank you. Moving on to correspondence, we have Rhode Island Land Trust, the highlight or low light of which is the retirement of Rupert, which is great for Rupert and too bad for the organization because he's done a great job. And I'd like the minutes to reflect that and thank Rupert for his service.
Do we want to send him a note?
Yeah, sure. Let's send him a note. We have an email from Sean Mullaney, financial support for stewardship at B. Oh yeah, that's the abutter at on the Amesbury Lane property. He's been back and forth with us. He is willing to help us in stewardship efforts on that property. I have told him basically that when we know what we need and if we need him, we'll ask him. It's a nice offer and appreciated. The James Vandal Two Rod Road situation. James Vandal lives on the east end of the paved portion of Two Rod Road, which is what it's called, road in the plat book, and way in many other places. I've been around a little bit with Denise in the assessor's office on this, and I've corresponded with Mr. Vandal. I don't know what, if any, authority we have over the use of Two Rod Road. It's unclear. So consequently, I'm going to sort of let that sit. I've asked Mr. Vandal if he has any documentations as an abutter himself to the road, and I've heard nothing back there. So that's just going to sit there for now. His observation is correct. There definitely is increased traffic using that trail. We have emails from Marjorie O'Toole about supporting the farming exhibit. I wrote to her, Rusty's written to her, Wayne wrote to her. We all provided letters in support of her grant application. And there's other issues to discuss in that, but I think we're going to move additional discussion of Historical Society and Ag Trust cooperation to our outreach committee section, because that's where that work's going to get done, if that's all right with you, Rusty.
Yes.
Okay. We have an email from the Rhode Island Green Infrastructure Coalition about planting trees, and we provided the W-9 to Mr. Tights. So that's our correspondence. Treasurer's report. You have those numbers, Wayne? Or Wayne's not here?
Wayne's not here.
Okay, I can do it. Yeah, here we go. So for the period December 1st, December 31st, 2020, the beginning balance was $3,192,926.84. We had revenues from transfer tax returns of $100,800, a donation of $100, interest earned of $1,523.97 and rent revenues of $7,650. So sources of funds is $3,303,081. We spent $28,744.25. We did not spend any money on acquisition, so that was all stewardship and administrative and so on. So our total use of funds was the same, $28,744.25. The closing balance is $3,274,256.56. We do have bills to pay. And
Do them, Bill?
I'm sorry?
Do you do them?
Yeah, that'd be great. Actually, they're in my email. So yeah, if you could, Cheryl, that'd be great.
Okay, we have Mosaic Land Management for $3,750. Carol Trockey, $360. East Bay Newspapers, $630. Modern Printing, $96.90. Adler Pollock and Sheehan, $2,046.75. Amesbury Mowing, $1,650. Revis Law LLC, $3,910. Cheryl Katie, $2,032.50.
So I would comment on the Revis. Hang on, David, please. I would comment on the Revis Law invoice. The work they've done is legitimate, but I have told them we won't be considering paying that invoice until next month's meeting. We're having some delays on production of work associated with the Nelson acquisition or the interest acquisition there. So I'm putting that bill on hold. Other than that, I'd love to entertain a motion to pay the other bills as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Rusty made the motion. David seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So, review of transfer tax. Cheryl, were you able to look at those forms this month?
I did, they were fine.
Okay. That concludes our treasurer's report. Old business subcommittee reports, public awareness update, internet hunting based forms. So I don't know. I think my note is in here that I shared with Cheryl and with Ron, what's his name? Roy. And Roy has responded that he thinks there's software that's pretty standard that he can use. Well, I don't know if he can use it or not. I've asked the question. So the idea being that we're going to, rather than have exchanging PDFs and Word files through email, which is how I provide review and approval to hunters now, I'd like to create a web page where they can go put themselves through a very brief menu-driven process that then creates a form that me or the next hunting coordinator can review and approve and then email back to the hunter who's desiring approval. So I think it's it's obviously something that hello Ellie, that you can do on the web. The question is how to do it the best. So we're working on that, and that will happen.
Bill, can we go back?
Yes.
Back to the narrative of accounts from Joe DeSantis. There was an email in there regarding a Centerville Bank overdraft notice.
Oh yeah.
We haven't used that account in some time since we opened the Washington Trust accounts, but that account was never formally closed out. So in speaking with him today, he would just need an email or a letter or something authorizing him to close the account.
Yeah, okay. I can provide that.
Okay.
I saw him this week too, and we did go over that.
On that item, I was wondering if Centerville was what we used for Stone in order to be able to accept stock.
I don't know.
Well, there was some,
I thought that was a town account. We ended up having to use a
Right.
town account.
okay. It was an extra banking account that we had to initiate in order to process or accept state.
No.
So that's
Se-
not that, that's fine.
No, Centerville was our old bank that we used. And then a few years ago, David was looking at the interest rates that we were getting and worked with Mary Jane, and they opened the Washington account so we would get a higher interest rate.
Okay,
Yeah, I think this is a legacy thing that we can close out with no problem.
you need a motion to do that?
I don't know. It can't hurt to have one, I guess. Do I hear said motion authorizing me to contact Joe to tell him to close the account?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Unanimously approved. Okay, outreach projects update. So, Carol, do we have guests? We have Ned and John Gwynn and Carter Wilkie and Helena Harris.
Yes.
So I thought we'd start this agenda item by bringing those guys in. These are our highly valued, skilled, and appreciated volunteers that are going to help us with these efforts.
So
And-
would you like them over on the side where you can see their faces?
Yes, please.
Okay, I will start the process.
And so I thought we'd start this item by asking each one to just introduce themselves. Not all of us have met them. And what their interest is. And then we can talk about more of the sort of nuts and bolts of what we're doing. So,
Carol, can you add Helena, please?
Now I'm going down the panel. She's on there.
Very good, thank you.
so Carter, your face popped up first. Could you introduce yourself to our group here and describe your interest in very nicely volunteering for the Ag Trust?
Sure. With my last name, usually I go last in alphabetical order, so this is a nice switch for me. My name is Carter Wilkie. I live on Colebrook Road in Adamsville. I'm happy to say it looks like I've met almost all of you here on the call. So far, there's just a couple of you I haven't, so look forward to meeting you in person. I raise pigs on a small farm property that has an ag easement on it, owned by SPA. And I'm very interested in the preservation and promotion of agriculture in Little Compton, and wrote to you folks about mid last year, hoping to get involved in some capacity, and Bill invited me to volunteer. So looking forward to working with you. I've been collaborating with Ned and Helena and John on this, and I think we've got a lot of good effort that we can bring to it on a volunteer basis. So look forward to working with you more.
Great. Thank you, Carter. Helena, would you like to step in, please?
Sure. Can you hear me okay? I have a little bit of a funky setup here.
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. So I'm Helena Harris, and I've lived here in town for about 12 years. I'm here with my husband and my 18-year-old daughter, who is a senior at Portsmouth High School. I have, the efforts of the Ag Trust are so near and dear to my heart that when we first bought our house here in town, I was so happy to pay the extra tax because of what it went towards. I'd never heard of an agricultural tax or a
You're
I think-
you're
I think she
you're buffering.
froze.
Yeah, she froze. There's buffering. Helena, you might have to reconnect or something if you can hear
transfer
this.
tax. And
There you go.
let's see. Is that better?
Try again. Now you're live.
Let's try. Hold on. Is good?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I went to a bigger bandwidth. So anyway, I was going back through my life history. You didn't need to hear all that. So I have my formal education is in environmental studies, mostly in public policy. I've been in marketing and communications in the finance and tech industry for the last 30 years. But I'm also an equestrian, and so land conservation and public access to that land, passive recreation is also very, very important to me. But maintaining and even increasing the agricultural culture of our community is especially important. I would love to see people growing food in their backyards, using our open space and just kind of growing on that. So my portion of this whole project is to kind of facilitate the communications between the Ag Trust efforts and the community at large. I'm a good writer. I'm not a great speaker. I'm better with the printed word. So in talking with Ned and Carter and John and David, I've sort of taken on this annual report project. And the annual report is more of a marketing piece than it is a formal reporting structure. The idea is to take everything that the Ag Trust has done to date and summarize that in a very persuasive, friendly way in the report, in this marketing piece. And I'm going to use those terms interchangeably because it is considered an annual report, but we're going to use it more as an outreach piece with beautiful photographs and persuasive text and copy, editorial layout, so that everybody who gets a copy of it feels what we feel for the mission of the Ag Trust. And what that will do, and taking information like what Rusty has so beautifully put together, statistics, data, and then the project that was going to be going on with the Historical Society, taking the annual report and using that as a jumping off point for smaller campaigns to use throughout the year. So this big piece, we put everything we can into it. It goes out to everybody's home, and then we take smaller chunks out of the report and we use that for miniature campaigns, whether that be on the website, social media, multimedia, smaller flyers, events, etc. And then we do it all again next year. So we create something of a template for an outreach campaign, from the strategic campaign to the smaller tactical campaigns that we'll take on throughout the year. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. That's great. A great starting point. And we're going to talk more about communication in a minute. But first, we'll get John to come in now that he's got his technical support staff, gotten him back on the World Wide Web here. If you could unmute yourself, John, and just give us a word.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. I'm doing a small piece helping with an integrated graphics system for as many sites as we can do and are ready for in Little Compton at the moment. We're working with a very good graphic designer who lives part-time in Little Compton, Gail Greenwood, and she's doing the graphics. A group of us are writing a draft of text for you to see and comment on, change, I hope, to make it accurate. And then Ned just came from Signature Signs on the Westport line, which does beautiful graphics for Westport conservation sites, and they look like they do very good work. And so we're keen to get a sample going of standard trail signs, standard interpretive signs, standard site signs, and teach people and show the presence of the Ag Trust around town. And also to integrate the look that we're creating, not a new logo, but a new look that will integrate graphics and website and maybe stationery if you want. So I think it's moving right along.
Great. Thank you, John. So the first sort of live project is getting the Peckham Trail going, installed, signed, the stone wall at the parking lot built, and so on. Ned is kindly put his hand up to agree to coordinate some of these efforts, not only with Peckham, but with some of the communication efforts and some other efforts related to the farmland. So Ned, I would ask you to, I think everyone's met you. You don't need to introduce yourself, but if you could give us a quick update on where we are in a general sense on the Peckham Trail project.
John is focusing on that by working on the signage and thinking through how we're going to mark the trail. We have an idea of how that trail is going to work without extending into the woods near the reservoir to the east. But John, we don't have it staked out or anything yet. And I think you're working on expanding the parking lot a little bit. So I'd call it a work in progress.
Right. But that's the idea there, is that we want, we've kind of agreed on trying to get this in for the spring, early summer. And I don't think we're going, I'm hesitant to try to replan our solstice event. I don't think that's going to be COVID friendly for this solstice. So we got to revisit planning around that. But I think in the meantime, if we actually get the site up and running as a place people can go and walk a nice loop on Ag Trust or public property, I think that would be a huge plus. And that's what we're working towards.
John, explain what you did with the map with Gail this week and why using Peckham for our first sign installation will help the whole project.
Well, we'd already started. We'd already started last year on that site, graphics for that site. So we had them half done. So we said, let's just use those as a prototype and get going with that. She does beautiful scratchboard illustrations, and I did a quick background map for her to play with, and I'm looking forward to seeing what she does next week. So it'll be shared with everybody a little later.
Great.
I also should mention that I'm working with Micah Gear. He's been distracted by other projects, but he's planning to get back in and finish the side stone wall and repair some of the front wall. I think his plan is I guess he's talked to Rusty, and Rusty's very carefully or nicely agreed to provide some stone so that we can do some of this new sidewall with some of the less good stone that's on the site, and then do nicer wall in the front of the parking area. So I think that'll happen this winter.
Great. So then the kind of the first, I don't know if it's the first, but one of the sort of live communication projects we have going is Rusty, it's in our packet here, drafted a cooperative communication with the Little Compton Historical Society, because they are doing a farm theme this year. They're working on their farm exhibit. They have a lot of farm artifacts, and most of the main exhibit space of the main barn there is farm related, and they're updating that and improving it and so on. And their theme this year is farming. So we're trying to cooperate with them on that, both from a communicate to the public point of view and, maybe within their event and if we have any event planning going on point of view. So Rusty has really nicely provided a draft, and Helen is going to take a look at that and rework it, and cooperatively we will be working with the Historical Society through this skilled group to present to the public some of our farming ideas and farming successes in town. Rusty, what else can you say about that particular effort?
Well, you basically synopsized what is going on. What I'm proposing is to take what the outreach subcommittee has done and just, move it forward, the first step forward or another step forward. And in conjunction with that, if you want to talk about the specifics of it later, I can wait. But as part of what I would recommend that we consider is allocating a board member to some of these specific projects to to interface with the outreach group, for instance, the communication plan or the trails that we're going to establish or trail we're going to establish in signage at the Peckham property. It's well along, but sometimes I think if we have a point of contact on the board, it would help out the folks that are donating their time and their efforts to have that interaction. So maybe we could consider something like that as we go forward tonight through the process of reviewing what they've put together, which is fabulous, by the way.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And now's as good a time as any. So basically we have sort of 3 initiatives coming from this group, increasing farmer use of our properties. Carter's really main interest is that. More public communication. Helena is really main interest is that, and we're starting with this replanning the annual report as a annual thing, obviously, and a template to expand our way to communicate. And then as a sort of subplot of that, this cooperative effort with the Historical Society. So, and I agree with Rusty, and we've talked about this, that it would be great to have a board member who might be interested in any one of these subcategories to be a contact for volunteer group. I personally would like, well, I hear from all of them, and I'd like to continue to, but I would like to put my hand up specifically on the trail. I really like to be a contact and a resource to help get that trail and parking lot and signage put in at Peckham, and then examine what other properties might get related treatment. So that would be my point. If anyone is interested in the communication side or I think Rusty's already done some work, and so is Wayne on the farmland side. Rusty, Wayne, and I, and Ned, and we have sat down and created a list of our fee-owned lands and ranked, so to speak, what properties are most farm ready. And there's work being done on a couple of them to identify farmers that might want to be involved. So I don't know if it's Rusty or Wayne or neither who would be associated with that effort, but they've already done a lot of the work. So, and then there's a communication piece. We don't need an answer this minute, but I would ask our board members to think about what of these areas they might want to put a little more effort into specifically and in cooperation with these great volunteers that we have.
Yeah, Bill, if I may, I kind of jumped in the pool of the communication thing and muddied the waters a little bit. So I'll stick with that if that's all right. And I've talked to Wayne about working with Carter on the farmland thing. And since he's not here, I'll volunteer him for that. But and I'll work with both he and Carter on that part as well, if that's all right.
Great, terrific. And anyone else, if they have a specific interest, you can tell us right now or later. Go ahead, David.
I'll volunteer to work with Rusty on the Historical Society. I'm on that board. We had a Zoom meeting today with regard to the event and discussed farms and how to promote that. The planning is unknown at this moment as to what we'll be able to do for the event this summer, but we had some discussion about the possibility of visiting farms or some sort of exhibit where the farmers would come to the Historical Society today. So lot remains unknown at this point.
All right, great. Thanks, Mike.
But I'll do that.
David, you had your hand up a second ago.
To work with you, Bill, on the I call the AgriPath along Peckham Road, because I'm
Great.
working on that. Also, I've been maintaining a pretty good relationship with the vineyard people. So other things could develop there.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Ned. Yes, Anya?
Bill, I just like to offer, if I'm not a member of the committee, but if there's a way in which I can help with communications, both between you and the council, but more general communications. I'd love to be involved in that.
Terrific. Thank you. Okay, we can make all those links happen. I appreciate it. People putting up their hands. Thank you, Carter, Ned, Helena, Anya, Michael. Says right on your screen there. Appreciate all your efforts, and we'll all be in touch. And thank you for coming tonight and introducing yourselves.
Thank you.
Okay, so Stewardship Committee. We got the lease from the Vineyard, which is good. Carol Trocchi, can you give us your report, please?
Sure. We had the major effort this month was 3 additional BDRs underway on Cumming, Mackenzie, and Lash. Cumming, now Talbot, and Mackenzie, now Castenson, are the 2 adjacent properties off of Big Drum down over John Dyer area. They are both properties you have looked at fairly recently because there have been some changes on them since they were originally conserved with the current landowners. Talbots have a chicken coop and a couple of raised beds, which you approved. And Castenson had some sort of landscaping changes. The conservation area goes right behind their house, sort of some gardening areas, which you also approved. So no problems on those, and they will be documented or have been documented in their current state for their baseline documents. The third one was Lash, which you own in fee. It's a corner lot, not very big, over in the Bramblewood neighborhood off of Crandall Road. That one is wooded. It's a lot of rocks. I think it was sort of a kind of a leftover piece that happened during that development, I presume. Everything there looked fine, but there is one large oak tree that was cut down in the northeast corner of the property sometime between 2019 and currently. So that is something you may want to address or not, but wanted to bring.
Is it a stump or is there a tree there lying on the ground?
There is a tree there lying on the ground.
Okay.
So it was Adam that did the field work, and it's not entirely clear why it was cut down. It's kind of the largest tree. It's a very small lot, but it's sort of the largest tree on that lot. There is some question as to whether or not it may have been shading the neighbor's pool.
Dumping leaves into the pool is more like it.
It was not removed, but it was obviously cut, with a chainsaw. So whether or not you wish to pursue that is up to you, but we wanted to bring it to your attention.
Okay.
Carol,
very good.
With regard to Talbot, I believe that property's been sold. I don't know if we.
No, that's the parents. She's talking the son.
Okay.
Yeah, to my knowledge, no.
Yeah, it's Jake. Jake has the chicken coop and the raised
Oh,
beds.
okay.
Dennis is sold and moved.
Right.
Oh, right. Yes. No, different property.
Right.
So otherwise, happy to answer any questions or provide any additional information that you want.
Is it later? We had these.
I think
had the proposal stuff. Is that in here?
Yep, your BDR proposals coming up next. We can talk
Yeah,
about.
let's do that now. While Carol's live here. So we have proposals for BDRs on, where are they here? Jackson, Souza, Helger Bento, Goldstone, and BHS. But I don't know that I have the actual proposals and the numbers. What are the numbers?
They're on Carol's letterhead.
Oh, okay.
Do you need me to tell you, or do you? I think they're your pack.
Let's see here. Yeah, could you tell us?
Sure. I just have to navigate to them. Okay. So the numbers are for Jackson Souza, which is pending. It was 1835. Helger Bento was 1835. Goldstone, 1655. And BHS, 1520.
Okay, so we have 4 proposals in front of us totaling $6,845 for these 4 baselines, 2 of which are at the moment pre-acquisition, but the acquisitions are in process and to be talked about shortly. The other 2 are post-acquisition. Could I entertain a motion to approve these 4 proposals totaling $6,845 to create baseline documentation on the properties listed?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, Rusty made the motion, Ed seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimously approved, thank you. Thank you, Carol.
Bill, can I just make one other comment?
Yes,
I applaud
please.
you, even though I'm overmatched, I applaud you for trying to keep your current baseline or backlog from growing while we're trying to address your old backlog. I did just want to let you know, there have been 3 properties that have closed since the last time we looked at this that didn't have baseline. So that may be something, I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Yeah, why don't you give us a proposal next month for those, please?
Okay, I can do that. I mean, yes.
Great, please. Okay, very good. Anything else for Carol? Hearing none. Didn't we approve Apfel Simon's money last month? Mike, where do we stand on that? That survey?
Yes.
Yeah, we got
approved
the
it.
money
We
for that.
approved it and we've ordered the survey and there in the packet, there's a copy of the contract.
Okay. Yes.
Sorry, Mike or Bill, if you can just let me know when that survey's available, we can address the BDR on that since that was the.
Yes. It's in
Yeah,
process.
great. Okay. Okay, a management plan for Pine Bridge Realty. The boys went back and did some more work. I like it. Any comments or discussion to be had on this management plan for Pine Bridge Realty? Do we all, so then I would entertain a motion to approve this management plan as presented. And that would then make it the management plan, which are subject to amendment for the property. And it also would be a template or example to reference when developing management plans for other similar properties. Do I hear said motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Michael Steers made the motion. Rusty seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously approved. Thanks. Thanks for your efforts on that, Wayne and Rusty. Okay. Lash, no report there. PT Marble, there's been John Berg and Mary Kate, is it, at SPA? And I had a little email correspondence on that this week. John, feel free to weigh in here. John is suggesting we ditch the fence and put more permanent rock type barriers there around the parking area, which I'm fine with. It's probably a good idea. The fence didn't last that long. And he also suggested in this email correspondence that we take down the kiosk, which is the signboard at the parking lot, because it also is of low utility and not looking great. And but keep the tower. And then John also had some ideas. Is he still on there? Yeah, he's still on. I don't see him. Oh, there he is. So
here.
and
I'm
yeah,
here.
so and then John had some mowing ideas, which let's bring those up now, John, and then we can get some money towards that. I'll just give you our group a little background here. So we've been providing Lynn Brusso to annually, semi-annually mow the field under John's direction, basically, what to mow, what not to mow, for a number of years now. She also mows the paths on a weekly basis in season. She does a good job with both items. John is feeling like there's other conditions that need addressing that are beyond Lynn's scope, and I would then ask you to chime in, John, please.
I think Lynn's done a marvelous job of keeping most of the area in meadow, and she years ago started to save some small oaks and some nice trees, but the bottom line is there's too many of them and they're getting too big, and we're going to lose meadow and end up with, you know, more tired looking forests. So the thought was to get in there while they're small and easy to remove. If you were standing in the tower, the whole area to the northeast that used to look out over Tuniper's Pond, that's pretty much gone. The area straight forward where you used to be able to look all the way up Goosewing, that's gone. And the area to the right looking out toward Chase Point, that's pretty much on its way out as well. So it seemed to me there might be 20 small trees that could be pretty easily removed. They've got maybe a 2-3 inch caliper, and that would restore those views. The other piece of it is some of the meadow edges have really gotten too big for the equipment that she has been using, and I thought even a sidebar mower might do it. So I don't think it's an immense task, but I had thought of tagging some of these trees ahead of time, and people could go out and decide which ones they like for the future. But basically just trying to simplify things a little bit and restore some of the meadow and the views.
Okay, so I think what we ought to do there is is get a proposal or two, get Jesse Helger or somebody like that in there, maybe one of the Brows, I don't know, Chris Faria, one of those guys with the gear and the knowledge, get some prices on the table. And so maybe what I'll do, John, is ask you to coordinate a walk around with a couple of those guys.
I'd be happy to.
And send me the proposals, both of us the proposals, and then maybe we'll have those, we can vote some money to get that work done. I think we should do, well, and this is my opinion, I think we should do the work. I think that the value of that place is as open space, not as forest. And we should expend some resources maintaining it as such. If everyone's in agreement with that, or if I guess I should say, if anyone is opposed to that, let me know now. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and get some numbers. We're not actually going to make decisions tonight. But is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
Okay. So
Thank you. I think that's good. There's really very few places that have public access in Little Compton to upland meadows like that with the view of the water. It's just, it'd be a shame to lose it.
It would. Okay, that's great. So if you can take on the nuts and bolts of it, and then we can talk about. Great.
I lost you.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So Boy Scout properties, we have this proposal from Amesbury Mowing in our packet here, which I think Wayne solicited for us.
Yeah. So, Bill, Wayne asked me if I would just fill you kind of in.
Please.
Amesbury Mowing did the previous work for us and opened the area right behind the gate and all the way into the property. So you can get all the way back to where the Boy Scouts used to camp now. But there are a number of trees that were either cut down, not by the last work, but by someone along the way, and trees that have fallen that are just laying there on the ground. And the idea is to kind of clean that up 30 feet in to make it look a little tidier.
Right. And so I would entertain a motion to approve this proposal for Amesbury Mowing and do the work as described under Wayne's direction. Again, since he's not able to volunteer him to run that job. Do I hear said motion?
Make
So
the
moved.
Michael Steers with the motion, second by Rusty. All in favor? Or David, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. Just as an aside on that, as part of our fee land discussion, Wayne came to one meeting and said, so his daughter and I guess his grandson tried to walk from the Boy Scout property up to 8 Rod Way. We have this notion that we can go from the Boy Scout property up through what's the Eddy property, which then abuts Tiverton. And he said she made a fatal error not bringing clippers with her, and she didn't get that far. But there is potential for that type of access in that area. And obviously, as we're seeing with this Amesbury Mowing proposal in front of us, it's going to require some work and some vision and some money. But that is the type of access that we're on that's on the table with our public outreach work. Very good. Thank you for that. BHS stewardship needs. I'm going to table that because Wayne's been working on the farmer there, and I don't know where he stands. So let's table that. Pine Bridge Ponds Properties stewardship needs stone wall. What's that? Is there something specific I'm missing there? Anyone knows about?
Yeah, he wanted to talk about not rebuilding that stone wall, but maybe removing the stones and cutting and regrading and having it be just a grassed-in area going into the field.
Oh, this is where the partially clear area along the road that we're talking about.
Right.
Here. Yes, right. Yeah, that's fine with me. Make it more open to the road and neater. I like that idea. What's anybody else think? I'll take no as an agreement and or nothing as an agreement unless somebody has something to say. And we'll ask. I'll talk with Wayne about more specifically what he's thinking and who he thinks might be good for that work. Maybe we take that stone and bring it up to Peckham, which is the last item in our stewardship list here, and we already really talked about it. And we do need some stone for that wall, so that could be a nice win-win there. Very good. So,
Bill, before we leave stewardship, if I may,
yes,
I've been conversing a little bit back and forth with Tom Young, the fellow who is looking at the Grange properties for potentially doing his food bank farm. And as part of that conversation, he has been over there getting quotes for electric and well. But one of the neighbors came up to him and was asking what he was doing, and he explained that he was there as part of a proposal to the Ag Trust, and they were, he was looking at putting him back in agriculture. The upshot of that is that perhaps we need to start sending out notices to the abutters there about what we're doing, and keep that in mind for future properties where we're starting to be more active. People have been used to it just sort of sitting there and Jackie mowing it perhaps or something like that. Now someone's actually doing work on it, or potentially doing work on it. So I think that if we notify those abutters to that property in particular, that would really potentially help things along. Could come back and bite us a little bit if somebody doesn't like what we're doing, but at least we'd know.
yeah, I agree 100%. We should be doing that. Any any significant change of use, we should be telling abutters ahead of time, at some point ahead of time. I think maybe we're far enough along at that property that now's the time, could agree on that. I don't know that we had been until now necessarily, but yeah.
Well,
I
and we
agree.
may
That's a
not
good
be
point.
there, we may not be there yet, but having now sort of opened up the option for someone moving into that property, even if Tom doesn't take it, we may be able to find someone relatively soon. So it may not hurt to wait, but it may not hurt to say that we're looking at trying to find someone to be actively farming those parcels. I don't have an opinion one way or the other, but if we're going to have activity there, we certainly should be giving them some notice, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Cheryl, could I ask you to identify who those people would be
Sure.
and put a list of them together for us? And maybe you and I can work on a message, a potential message for next month. Yes, David.
So I think that's a good point, Rusty, and let's put a positive spin on that, because with the outreach group and communications, we can say, this is what is happening at that property. And other people who abut properties that we have development rights on, want to feel free to suggest farmers or utilization of the product of the farmland next to them, so that they feel that they're ahead of it with us, as opposed to being proactive. Let's be proactive rather than reactive.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's right. We're on the same page there. Yeah. So we will work on that. Cheryl and I will work on that for some sort of potential message we can discuss collectively
Carol,
next month.
get your attention.
Bill, I just wanted to catch you before you leave stewardship. Can we go back to Boy Scouts for just a second? There was a question.
Yeah, sure.
When they did, well, first of all, the Ag Trust asked me years and years ago, George Mason asked me about the possibility of a trail on that property. And I'll just direct you to Adam's BDR and Eddie. It is like super impenetrable and wet back there, but good luck. It's a tough
Yeah.
one. On the Boy Scout property, Adam let me know he had done the BDR on that property last year, I think, and the clearing that was just recently done opened things up a lot. And there's a foundation that is very visible now that he did not include in the BDR because he didn't see it. And I just wanted to know, he wanted to know if you wanted him to update the BDR and replace it and you could sign it and post it again, or if you'd rather us just note that in this monitoring report so it's in the file as something present on the property that wasn't part of that baseline.
I think we can do that through the monitoring. That's fine.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so that's stewardship, I believe. Acquisition. Helger Bento, Joe, Marion, and Ray are working on the purchase and sale. Gene has weighed in on some of that. Joe and Mike, and to a lesser degree myself, are working on assembling easement language from a variety of recent easements that we've done that have some updated language and some well, mostly that updated language. So that process is underway. Nothing on Driver, nothing on Cotta West, nothing on Ryan, nothing on Levine, Rice, Jackson. So and Souza, speak to them. I spoke with Joe about these guys. He's been in recent touch with Kyle. I asked if we needed to close Souza ahead of time, and he said, because Mr. Souza is 92 years old and not in great health, he said that Mr. Souza has signed the property over to Kyle. So should anything happen to Mr. Souza in the meantime, it's okay. We can deal with Kyle. The process that has to happen there now is we need a description of the 2 of 5 acres on the Souza property that will be encumbered by the easement. They're retaining 3 of the 5. And then once we have that and Kyle sort of lined up, which Joe's having trouble getting, once we have those 2 things, then we can close on that property. But Joe is actively working on that, both those things. I told Joe to go ahead and get in touch with Don Medeiros to get a description written. Albernus, Manchester, I spoke, but just very recently with Judy to update a appraisal there along the lines that Wayne was describing last month. We should have that next month. Nothing on Ratcliffe. Nelson, we have in, well, it doesn't really need to be in executive. I can tell you that we're working on a purchase and sale agreement. It's tricky because we're spending a lot of money, right? So we need to get as assured as we can that when what would have been the Historical Society's gift vests, when the right people die, in other words, that we can protect our interest. If, as the lawyer correctly pointed out recently, the Historical Society was given a gift, right? So when the time comes, they either get the gift, or if someone on the other side, a Nelson family member or whatever, fights them and the gift gets, messed up somehow, and we're talking who knows when, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, then nothing ventured, nothing gained on their part. But we're talking about spending a lot of money. So we need a few more legal assurances and an identified, documented route to receiving that, what would have been a gift to the Historical Society. So that's what we're working on. There's title work involved. Basically, the purchase and sale, our agreement has to reference whatever the existing title is and confirm the appropriateness and strengths of the wills to give the gift as identified. So that's, then our title guy got COVID. Anyway, we've had a bunch of setbacks there, but that is also being worked on actively. Nelson Booth. I'm not sure if I didn't discuss this we discussed it last month, but I think in the meantime, Michelle Sheehan has confirmed with me that the Rhode Island Agricultural Land Concert, it's one of the Rhode Island groups that she gets money from and runs easement lands and conservation lands. Anyway, they what's the word? Committed to 75% of the purchase price and the appraised amount is, I think, $435,000. So we last month talked about committing potentially up to as much as $150,000, right? So a quarter of 435 is 108,750. That sounds roughly, the most we'd be on the hook for there. There's some work to do yet, but that's where that stands. Then the Westport Land Trust donation, there's just paperwork to do that I have to do with Joe. So that's acquisitions. New business. David, number 1 is your item.
I reviewed Cheryl's remuneration. She hasn't had an increase for 2.5 years, and her current remuneration is $30 an hour. And I think we should increase that to 35 because not just inflation, but because Cheryl does a lot of things that she doesn't even bill us for, and she keeps after each of us on things we're behind on. So I think she's acting administratively as much more than secretarially, and so I think she deserves that increase to $35 an hour.
Do I hear said motion?
I make the motion.
I'll second.
Second. David made the motion. Rusty seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimously approved.
you.
Cheryl, I agree with David, all of what David said. And you do a great job and we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
The second item, Cheryl, is your item? You need
Oh,
some stuff?
office supplies. Yeah, it's time to order office supplies. We need expanding file folders, ink, paper, all of the usual. Plus, we need to buy a new file cabinet. We just have no more room.
Do you
at
have a
this
number? Do
point.
you have a number in mind?
I'm gonna say not more than $1,000. I have to say the filing cabinet will probably run anywhere between $400 and $500.
So I would entertain a motion to approve Cheryl's purchase of her necessary supplies in an amount not to exceed $1,500.
Cheryl,
Go
what
ahead.
size filing cabinet are you looking for? Because we're actually moving, and I think we have a bunch of filing cabinets that I'd be happy to donate.
It needs to be the legal size one, not the letter size and 4 drawers. And I don't
some
know
measuring.
what else we have to have. Carol would know that. I think it has to be fireproof.
Anyway,
I
we don't need to decide that right here. What we need to decide is whether we're supporting this effort with $1,500. Do I hear said motion?
So moved.
I'll make the motion.
Ellie made the motion. Michael seconded it. Mike Steer seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Unanimously approved. Thank you, Cheryl and Ellie. Schedule site visits. We need to go to, what do we need to go to? Booth? El Gibento, where else?
Let me look at the list here.
Could-
We haven't seen, well, Westport Land Trust, we haven't seen that, but that's neither here nor there. It's donation. Booth, Nelson, I guess just Nelson and Booth.
Yeah,
It just
okay.
sounded like last meeting, people wanted to see where the Booth property
Well,
was.
they should see both. I agree with that. Hey,
Should I
Ned,
watch the weather and just send an email and see if it's good for people or?
well, it's not, Booth is easy. We can go to Booth kind of anytime, but what we need to arrange is Nelson. And then once we arrange Nelson, we can tag Booth on to the top of that. Ned, could you work on that for us, please?
When would you like to do that, Bill? Give me the latest date that would be acceptable.
That would be, usually it's a Sunday, right? Saturday or Sunday.
Lately, it's been Sundays after 11.
Sundays after 11, before the middle of April.
Okay, I'm on it.
Okay, thank you. So once we have a Nelson date, we'll tag Booth onto that. Rusty, we kind of spoke about the communication. Do you have more to add there?
Well, I would focus on the mailer right now. A couple of things. A, do we want to do it as a board? What I've drafted still needs to be further edited and coordinated and things like that. But there's the big question: do we want to move forward sending a correspondence to every mailbox in Little Compton? That's the first question.
Right. So just to be clear for everyone, and I agree with you, we should move this tonight. This is a version of what's in your packet about speaking to the farm years, a cooperative effort with the Historic Society, and then there's discussion about a survey as well. So I guess it's a two-part question. A, does our board want to support a townwide mailing discussing this year's effort? And B, do we want to include a survey with it or direct them to a survey online with the mailer or something along those lines?
Yeah,
so
the reason I included the survey was to try to give us some sort of a buy-in from the people who are getting the mailer, that they can feel that they're part of the process, and B, to give us some sort of baseline from which we can measure or identify how we're progressing in the future or not. And fostering agriculture, preserving agriculture, however you want to look at it.
Right, and I can tell people that a portion of this came out of discussions we had when we were identifying potential farmland or expansion of farmland use from the Ag Trust inventory. We thought identifying who, what, where, and how people farm in Little Compton, the obvious and the non-obvious, would be a worthwhile exercise to sort of lay next to this inventory of potential land that we want to have farming on. So that's kind of where that came from, and I think it would be an interesting thing to learn about. So, do I hear a motion to develop a townwide mailer, and which obviously our outreach committee will do the language. There'll be some costs associated with production of the actual piece, and we have some expertise about surveys in our outreach group as well. So that, and whether it's a link or whether it's actually in the piece, I guess is to be determined. But do I hear a motion or more discussion to support and progress that work?
So I think it's a great idea. And I'd be interested in more on the questions. Now, I know Rusty's working with Marjorie on coordinating the whole farm stuff, but how different possibility in the survey of taking the temperature of what people know about the trust in town, what they would want to know about, broaden it. And so I'm just
Right. That's an interesting point. I think I'm always amazed at what people don't know about the trust in town. And I guess I'm not amazed a bit, but I'm constantly reminded. And I agree that efforts need to be made in that area. I'm not sure this is the vehicle, but it's a start, or that the survey is a vehicle. I don't know. But that I don't think we need to decide that tonight. I think we want to decide, do we want to develop a piece, and then we can get into the details of the piece.
Yeah,
No, I agree. Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
a couple of things that may help your decision. Marjorie O'Toole at the Historical Society said it cost them roughly $1,500 to do one of their mailers. And as far as the survey goes, that was just me writing down some questions that I thought would maybe be worthwhile, but I've already gotten feedback from both Marjorie and Ned about how we can perhaps expand it just a little bit to make it more granular, and yet still keep it short enough that people will actually do it. You don't want to scare them off by the size of this thing. We want to get them involved, and we want to get their feedback. So these things are going to change. There's still some feedback that I need to get for the mailer itself. And, as we go through yes or no, we want to do it, then, how much money do we want to put towards it? And finally, can we have, a single point of contact, whether it's you, Bill, or someone else on the board who can give it the yay verily, as opposed to waiting until next month to get it out on the street.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm happy to be that contact, and working with our outreach experts. I would suggest that our motion then say that the Ag Trust would like to develop a townwide mailer related to the Year of the Farm and a cooperative program with the Historic Society, as well as broader Ag Trust educational issues, and that we would approve an amount up to $3,500 for the development and distribution of this piece, and that all those board members who want to be involved in the language of it are welcome to get on the email list and put in their 2 cents. Do I hear said motion?
So move.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, so Mike Steers made the motion. Ally seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you.
The last thing I'd suggest, Bill, is that the board actually approve one person to, as I said, whether it's you or someone else. I'll happily do the work and interface with the outreach committee. I'll be the approval authority if the board wants, but instead of having to get everything back in front of the board next meeting, just have, whatever their guidance is for, or our guidance is for what it contains, but a single point of approval that says, yes, we've coordinated with the Historical Society. This looks good to me, and we're going to go forward.
I'll nominate Bill for that.
Okay, I'm happy to accept that. You could add that into the motion, Cheryl, please.
Okay.
Great, Rusty, thank you. John Berg, we spoke about PT Marvel Preserve. Anything else you want to speak to us about tonight?
Too many buttons. Starting some negotiations opportunities, both in Tiverton and Little Compton. Not really worth talking about this month, hopefully next. I did want to, Dundry Brook Trail. There was an earlier meeting where there was some interest in the trust in connecting to that from Willow Avenue. When the time's right, I should have told you, we have a trail easement with Richard Ross, which is your interest, and we have a trail easement with Lucy Close and Buck Close, which is your interest as well. So I think I've been working on this slowly. We're under the weather with the COVID, but Richard Ross has done a lot of work. But I think when that pulls around, let's talk a little bit.
Well, so
I'm not looking for money or even help. I'm just saying that let's coordinate the message and the connection, and then there's
right.
the dog issue. So anyway,
would there be
Yeah.
worth value in looking at something quick? So that trail that sweeps east northeast around the pond at Bumblebee, and then up towards up towards the farm road there, Derbyshire, really. It abuts ponds now.
Oh, it's 3 feet away from it. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
It would cost nothing essentially to make an opening into the field. My question is, it was ankle deep on the path when I was there, so I can't imagine what. But I'm wondering, is it at all feasible to cut into the cornfield, turn right, go south, and end up back at the ball field? Can you get there, or is it just waist deep everywhere? Yes, Carol.
I haven't tried that. I suspect the farther south you go, the wetter it is. I think we should put our heads together and figure out if there's a way to drain some of that cornfield water through Bumblebee.
Yeah, but maybe you could end up in the playground. I think
it's artificially trapped in there. How's that?
Maybe you could end up in the playground. You know what I mean? Get back to the Veterans Field through the cornfield.
The further south you go, the wetter it gets. The area that was agricultural, that is now an overgrown tangle immediately north of the playground, is pretty dense. But there's a place where the Dundry Brook Trail goes very close to the wall, and it's cornfield immediately on the other side where there's a clear deer trail.
Right.
Very passable, very easy to connect those two. It's in the middle of the cornfields aspect of it. So you'd have to go around the edge of the cornfield to get there, but it's dry enough and already sort of an existing deer trail.
Maybe you go north. Maybe you go north, you go through the wall, you go north and end up on Willow Ave. I don't know. Anyway, we can talk about that. What else you got, John?
That's pretty much it. It's,
Okay.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think it'd be fun and very worthwhile in terms of, in the context of everything we're talking about in the public tonight, to get something expanded there from a trail point of view.
Maybe we plan a walk someday with folks who are interested to kind of scope it out.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Bill, one more thing.
Yes.
One more thing before I go. We do a lot of moving parts in this outreach thing, and one of them is Johnny's work on the sign for Peckham. Is there budget approved for that for Peckham?
There is. I think there
so.
is.
I think
Yeah,
there
I think
was.
there's a few $1,000 for
can't look.
Peckham.
Well,
out
it'll
there.
be under that. So I just want to make sure we weren't going down the wrong path.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, but I'm sure we voted money for Peckham Trail expenses.
We're gonna have money for Gale. We're gonna have sign production money and sign install money. Those last two are probably going to be signature sign, and it's very economical.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we're covered there, Ned. Thank you for bringing it up.
No problem.
Okay. That concludes our public session agenda. Anya, the question came up if you want to join us in executive or not. Basically, the difference is we talk about the dollar amounts associated with acquisitions. That's the real difference. You're welcome to. It's up to you.
Yeah, I would leave that to you guys. If you think I need to be in, if there's a reason, then tell me and I will gladly join, but I don't think.
Yeah.
I just sent you a link, Anya. You can just ignore it.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
So the link has been sent, guys, for you guys to join executive session.
All right.
So I need
Bill, you and I can talk about whether there is circumstances under which I should join these, but I don't think.
Yeah, I don't really see it either, but it just sort of came up. So,
yeah.
And if that changes, I'll certainly let you know.
All right.
Okay, so I need a vote or a poll or whatever it's called to get us to
motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing land acquisition negotiations per Rhode Island General Law 42-46-5A5. Now the motion.
Do I hear that motion?
Make that motion.
I'll make that motion.
Ellie made the motion. Mike Steer seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you all. Thank you
Everyone
all to our
opposed? Okay.
visitors. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Great talking with you, and we will be in touch.
Cheryl, did you put your new?
I sent everyone a link.
Okay, thanks.
Carol, will you put up your sign?
Yes, I'm doing it now.
Okay. Because I sent them the link 5 minutes ago. We're getting faster at this.
That's good.
Well, maybe.
Some of us.
Here's Rusty.
Cheryl, you're still on this one.
Okay, thank you. I'll just mute myself.
Okay.
Hi, Carol, we're coming back.
Okay.
Ed, are you using two computers? You're on mute.
I am?
No, Ed is.
I'm using one computer. I use two monitors, but one computer.
Okay.
So I'm looking at things on the screen. That's why I'm not really looking at this computer.
Well, you came
Okay,
back so quickly. I was like, whoa.
we have a quorum of Ed Miato, David Wexler, Ellie Field, and myself. I would entertain a motion
To seal the minutes?
seal the minutes of the executive session of February 3rd today.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that concludes our agenda of the public session of today's date for the Ag Trust. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I make that motion.
Ed makes a motion, David seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you,
you,
Cheryl.
everybody.
Thank you, Carol. Thanks,
Hi, Mike.
everyone.
You're welcome. Mike, you're too
Bye-bye.
late. You already adjourned.
Yep, we adjourned.
Good.